Hello, friends. The 752nd day of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. Commander-in-Chief Syrskyi again visited the Avdiivka direction. There, the Russian army is said to have concentrated its main efforts and has been trying to break through the defenses of the Ukrainian armed forces for several days in a row. Foot groups rush into the assault with the support of equipment, artillery, FPV drones, and aviation, which drops guided bombs. The artillery positions of the Ukrainian army and the main elements of the battle formation are covered by electronic warfare means. Ukraine is fighting back with artillery, drones, and armored groups. The reserve maneuver is being used, Syrskyi added. According to Ukrainian telegram channels in Berdichi, Russian troops advanced along Sadova Street to a depth of 300 meters. South of Berdichi and north of Orlivka, the enemy advanced along the forest belt in an area up to 2.2 kilometers wide and to a depth of 820 meters. In Orlivka, fighting continues along Yelahina Street, where no significant changes have been recorded. In Tonenki, Russian troops advanced along Centralna and Umanska streets in an area up to 730 meters wide and up to 400 meters deep. South of the pumping station, located southwest of Tonenki, the enemy attacked with the support of armored vehicles in the area of the intersection. The Ukrainian armed forces managed to push the enemy back to Tonenki. The military telegram channel Deep State describes Russia's new assault tactics, which are used in many areas and help the enemy improve their position. At the first stage, logistics are suppressed, approach routes, any movement of equipment for the supply of ammunition or evacuation. For this, both artillery and FPV drones are used. At the second stage, there is an infantry assault up to a platoon, which identifies firing points and positions of the Ukrainian armed forces. As a rule, this attack is fraught with high losses for the enemy. At the third stage, all kinds of attacks are carried out on the exposed positions of the Ukrainian army, including air bombs, and the second wave of assault is sent. It consists of more trained units. Meanwhile, the U.S. Institute for the Study of War suggests that Russian troops are preparing for a large-scale offensive in the summer of 2024. Russian forces may try to maintain the pace of their offensive operations, regardless of difficult weather and terrain conditions, to take advantage of Ukrainian equipment shortages before promised Western security assistance arrives in the country, the report said. The intentions and plan for the Russian offensive in the summer of 2024 are not yet clear, but it is likely that Russian military commanders intend to capitalize on any successes they achieve in the coming weeks. Institute analysts believe the Russians are concentrating on advancing as far west of Avdiivka as possible before Ukrainian forces can establish a formidable line of defense in the area. This summer, the Ukrainian armed forces may be even worse endowed than they are now, the Institute writes, noting that the provision of sufficient weapons to the Ukrainian army by Western partners will be a key factor that will affect the ability of the Ukrainian armed forces to hold the line. Well-resourced Ukrainian forces have shown that they can prevent Russian forces from making even minor gains during a large-scale Russian offensive effort. There is no reason to doubt that Ukraine could further stabilize its front line and prepare to repel reported Russian offensive efforts this summer if equipment shortages ease, writes the American Institute for the Study of War. The telegram channel of the 46th Brigade of the Ukrainian Army writes that an analysis of recent events shows that the second half of March will give many events and unexpected directions. We underestimate some of them. In some of them, the enemy has already shown his interest in small touches and strokes. For example, the western bank of the Dnipro River. The enemy will use March-April to prepare for the offensive campaign in 2024, the peak of which will be in the summer. Success will depend on whether the parties have a prepared strategic reserve. There will be a lot of work, writes the telegram channel of the 46th Brigade. The Washington Post writes that the White House is already admitting that due to political dysfunction in Washington, American aid will be allocated to Ukraine too late to avoid disaster. Biden believes that in the best case, countless lives may be lost this year. In the worst case, the front line will be broken. It won't do Ukraine any good to go without supplies for a long time and could lead to potential collapse. But here's the thing. Even if Ukraine holds out, it will cost us countless lives, a senior U.S. official said. An unnamed senior advisor to Zelensky agreed that in the absence of new American assistance, there is a high likelihood of significant territorial losses by the summer. People don't understand how bad things are now at the front. Morale is low, dynamics are low. Young people are afraid that they will be mobilized to die due to a lack of weapons, the source said. Also, according to the publication, Ukrainian politicians told European and American officials that ammunition for some of their air defense systems could be almost used up by the end of March. By the way, the Telegraph also writes about this today. Ukraine is so low on ammunition that by the end of March it will run out of air defense missiles to defend its cities, the newspaper reported. By the way, Western military experts attribute the loss of Abrams tanks near Avdiivka to the lack of equipment among the Ukrainian armed forces. Forbes magazine analyzes how they were amazed. The first Abrams was shot down by a drone in February or earlier. The explosion appears to have opened the blast door, allowing fire to enter the ammunition compartment, completely destroying it. The second and third were lost in March from attacks by Russian Kornet anti-tank guided missiles. They have a tandem warhead. The first charge penetrates the armor, the second explodes inside the tank. The publication considers Russian anti-tank missiles to be the main, although not the only, threat to Abrams tanks. Due to a shortage of artillery shells, the 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade, which is the only Abrams operator in the Ukrainian armed forces, is forced to fight with tanks at close range, which was the reason for the losses among these tanks. However, a number of experts suggest that in the foreseeable future, in general, current methods of combat will become a thing of the past due to a sharp increase in the number of attack drones at the front. The Ukrainian military specialist in drones, Flash, believes that within 6 months or a year both warring sides will begin to produce enough FPV to destroy every soldier. Both day and night on the surface, in a 6-kilometer strip, all fighters will be detected and destroyed, all infantry will go underground, all activity in the near zone will fall on controlled ground robots, says the expert. A few words about the border battles in the Belgorod and Kursk regions, which resumed after a 9-month break. They look much larger than similar actions in May 2023. That is, probably, the assault units in Ukraine are being told that these are Russian formations fighting on the side of the Ukrainian army. This time the task is not just to carry out a raid on the border areas and return back, but also to break through the border and capture part of Russian territory, the city or area. So far, these attempts have not had any visible success. There is no video evidence that any settlements near the border with Russia have been taken. The Russians claim that all attacks have been repulsed. But quite possibly, the main blow is still ahead, although it is obvious that the advantage of surprise has already been lost, and the Russians were also preparing to defend the border. Friends, preparing these daily reports has become my full-time job, and I have no other job for obvious reasons. There have been few views on the channel lately, which is why I ask for your help. If you have the opportunity to support me financially, I would be very grateful. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.